College. College. Sure, why not? A video about my college experience is a little basic for my tastes, but who knows? You might be a high school senior, and you clicked on this video hoping for one of two things. One, you're hoping I say, yes, it's totally worth it. Or two, all those other videos were right, save your money. Well, the answer is a bit more complicated than a simple yes or no.
Yeah, no, no, yeah, no!
If it was, this video would be 2 minutes long and I'd make no money. So, if you want to hear about my roommate getting drunkenly married at 4 a.m., or my Zoom call with a Mexican guy who had a pet chicken, stick around. I'm here to help you make that important decision. When I was accepted into my first university in Ohio, I was excited. A fresh start. I was kind of the quiet kid in high school, and this was my opportunity to make some cool friends. On my first day, my family all piled into the car, and we left for Cincinnati. As we passed the iconic "Hell is Real" sign, a wave of anxiety washed over my body. What if my roommate and I didn't get along? I had been on Discord calls with him for the last few weeks, and he seemed like an okay guy. When we got there, he was already in the room. He met my family, he was nice, things were going alright. After the first night, I wanted to shoot myself. Okay, so maybe things didn't go exactly as I had planned them. Turns out, he was one of those kids who wasn't allowed to have a lot of sugar, so when he got to college, he kinda went crazy with it. I felt a lot of panic that first night. For the first time in a while, I cried. Genuinely, just cried. I texted my parents, wanting to give up day one. And keep in mind, we did not have separate rooms in this dorm. This singular room was just big enough to fit 2 beds, 2 desks, and not much else. We had a communal bathroom that the whole floor used. But my parents told me to stick it out, give it time. It just so happens that night, my roommate had already made plans with some people that he met. That left me alone in the room for a few hours. I pulled out one of the comic books I brought with me, and I had a few hours to myself to just think. Things were going to be okay. I like to think I'm pretty good at adapting to difficult situations, and I would make it work. Things were gonna be okay. My first year at this university was interesting, I suppose. I didn't make any friends my first year, not a single one. My roommate and I didn't really get along. We weren't openly hostile towards each other, we just didn't really talk. He really kind of freaked me out the first night when he was bouncing off the walls. So I mostly just kept to myself. I was about 1 year into YouTube at this time, so I just kind of did that between classes and my full-time job at the nearest movie theater. 40 hours a week, on top of all this other stuff. I did actually make some work friends there, they were pretty cool. But for the most part, every day just felt like I was going through the motions. It was at this university that I took possibly the worst class I've ever been a part of. It was a philosophy class. The professor was this no-nonsense bald guy. This was a class where I actually tried because I like philosophy. A lot of my videos have a philosophical element to them. But this guy seemed to relish in the idea that he was so above his own students and that they didn't know what he was talking about. I specifically remember one time, he asked a question, I raised my hand, and answered it correctly. A rare occurrence in this class where most students never bother to even raise their hand. I got it right, which is again rare, and he looked me dead in the eyes and said, "Okay, smartass." Then he kept on teaching. Never raised my hand again. I don't know if he was joking or what, but it didn't make me feel great. He didn't even say it in a way that sounded like he was joking. Imagine having that happen to you, and then having to work an 8-hour shift afterwards, on top of the homework for that class. That was pretty much my freshman year experience. That and having a single dining hall that closed at 8 p.m., which means most nights, I didn't get to eat a real dinner. Now I know all of that is super depressing, but I'm glad to say that my freshman year was the worst year of college, not even close. Every subsequent year got better for the most part. Just because I had a bad freshman year doesn't mean you will. Here's my advice. Go to all the bullshit orientation stuff, even if it seems boring. You need to get out there and just get used to talking to people. I mean, my orientation was such bullshit. They had like a magician. It's just really cringe. But I should have gone because I needed to talk to people. We also had like a assembly about sex. I went to that one. You were required. Ugh, that was rough. The point is, don't worry about making friends at these events. You just need to start college by interacting with as many people as possible. Also, you need to set a budget. You've probably just taken on a lot of debt and you need to limit your spending money. Having a job helps, of course, but don't get a full-time job. That was one of my biggest mistakes my first year. It's way too much stress. Plus, between that and classes and homework, you have no time to make friends. Friends are the priority here. Not that it's impossible to survive college without friends, but it does make it a lot easier. For my second year, I decided to transfer out of that college and into a different one. It was extremely close to the first one, literally the next exit on the interstate. It was a bit of a bigger campus, and they had more options for clubs, places to eat, and places to work. And lots of bars.
I am not drunk.
It was also slightly cheaper, bringing my tuition down from around $8,000 to around $5,000 a semester, guesstimating. College is super expensive, man. I didn't take out any loans for this money either. I worked almost every semester, got a few scholarships, had a razor-thin budget, and my parents did help me out a little bit. I honestly do not know how I survived college with minimal debt, but it is possible at the detriment of the actual college experience. My second year was much better. I had 2 roommates this time with a bigger room. We had a good dynamic.
You look like a gay cowboy, and you look like a gay terrorist.
Still no separate rooms, but, I had enough space to make my own little private corner. I even brought in some of those, little carpet squares, and I carpeted my side of the room. It really made it feel like my own space. These guys were much better than my last roommate, who, by the way, I ended things with after the first semester at that first college. I won't say exactly what happened because I still see him online sometimes, but we were 2 single guys in a 1-room dorm. I may have walked in on some things, but whatever, it happens. I had 2 roommates my second year, and they were pretty chill for the most part. Now at the beginning of this video, I mentioned that one of my roommates got drunkenly married at 4 a.m. And this is actually true. Spring break, we all went home for a few weeks, and he came back married to his boyfriend. His boyfriend was Mexican.
I'm sorry, but just imagine waking up and remembering your...
And trust me, that is relevant, because they wanted to go to Mexico for the honeymoon. And if you know anything about Mexico, a gay couple traveling in that country is... You just really have to be careful. We were really worried about that. I don't know if they ever went. It's also worth mentioning that this roommate was stupid rich. He didn't really have any concept of money at all. But he never rubbed that in our faces, outside of the fact that he never ate at the dining hall with us. He always just ordered pizza to the room for himself, every night. But other than that, he was chill. The best thing he ever did was get wasted one night, which was a nightly occurrence really, but he found his way back to the room, and he deep cleaned our bathroom while he was drunk. We always joked that we should get him drunk every time the bathroom needed cleaning. He ended up repeating at least 1 entire semester of classes because he never actually went to those classes, but he was just a cool guy. He was a party animal, but compared to my first roommate, he was alright. My other roommate was pretty chill too, although he had issues with dating in college. He was a victim of a false report from his ex, and that rumor followed him after high school. Now I wasn't there, I don't know what actually happened, but from the way he talked to me about it, it seemed like this really messed him up. I specifically remember talking to him about some of his own anxieties with sex, and he was a major factor in me deciding to talk about sexual health and wellness on my second channel. He had a bit of a rough time with money as well. He spent all of his money pretty quickly, and he didn't have enough to continue to hang out with his friends. I don't know where he is now, I just hope he's doing alright. My classes in my second year were not nearly as bad as the first year. I had to retake Spanish because the credits didn't transfer, which was such bullshit. That may have been the most anger I've ever felt. So, at the first college, we had to do these things called talk-abroads, and also boomerangs, same thing, where you had to Zoom call someone from another country and speak in perfect Spanish for 30 minutes. If you accidentally switch to English, even to say como se dice blah 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 in español, even if you did that, you failed the assignment. This was by far the most stressful thing I ever had to experience in college. And my advice is, find a freaking Spanish class or foreign language class that you do not have to do a talk abroad or a boomerang. If you see one in the syllabus, run away. Unless it's the only one, in which case, I keep you in my prayers. I remember taking a class on, global warming, which was pretty fun. We learned about the ice caps and how much, things were changing and how fast and these kind of complex equations. But it was a very casual class and I really enjoyed it. I had that one. I had another Spanish class that was a little more low-key. This is at the second university. No talk abroads this time. We did have to speak in Spanish twice a semester, but it was only for 8 minutes. And it was with a partner who was also in the class. That wasn't so bad. I also took one of those slightly pretentious film classes where you analyzed an Alfred Hitchcock film every week. That one was alright, just a lot of work. I actually met one of my few friends in that class. We weren't a hangout every day type situation, but we occasionally saw each other on campus and we said hi to each other all the time. Junior and senior year, super blurry in my mind. I don't remember anything, which is weird since they're the most recent years. Junior year was the year that I worked at the on-campus Starbucks, which was by far the best customer service job you could have, especially if you work at one that doesn't have a drive-thru. An on-campus Starbucks mostly serves young adults who have all worked a customer service job at one time or another. So if you mess up a drink, very rarely will they get mad. There's not many Karens because they all kinda understand how much it can suck. I made some great friends at that job. A lot of girls that I was actually good friends with. Yeah, I know, crazy, but it is possible to do when everyone's poor and just trying to make it to the next semester. It was in these 2 years where I had my favorite professor, Mike. He taught some animation classes that I took. These classes were actually pretty difficult. Animation is a hell of a thing, but he was very enthusiastic about it, and he was lenient when it came to grading. Not super lenient about it, but as long as you tried, you weren't going to fail his class. He was actually one of the lead animators for Jimmy Neutron.
I don't feel so good.
He always carried this framed picture of Planet Sheen with him, and he basically treated it like a punching bag because he hated working on that show. He was a really fun guy, and I definitely miss seeing him every other day. I also took my favorite class around this time. I don't remember the exact name of the class. It was brand ideation or something. This was an extremely laid-back course where you worked on your own personal brand. And of course, I worked on my YouTube channel, which I basically did for the entire class period, and I even got to present it at the end of the semester. The professor was the definition of just a chill guy. For one of our major projects, he basically left it completely open. Turn in whatever you want. As long as it illustrates these principles of branding, your final could be whatever you wanted. And guess what? People in that class actually showed up and consistently gave a shit. When you allow students to shape the class into whatever is going to help them most, people actually make an effort to present something great. I think all college courses should be structured like this. Let the student take control of what they're being taught. Let them apply the lessons in class. The thing about Cincinnati, though, is that it's not the safest place on earth. It's actually been in the news recently for its rampant crime. There are just certain parts of the city that you don't go to, which is a shame because it's a beautiful city that I never really got to experience because it's so dangerous. Lots of nice public parks, farmers markets, and museums, all in the downtown area, which you cannot go to. The Hall of Justice in the new Superman movie is actually the Cincinnati Art Museum, which I've been to. It's a beautiful place. It just sucks that ever since COVID, the crime has been through the roof. Apparently, the police force there aren't really allowed to do anything because of a fear of deteriorating race relations, which I can understand, but they're gonna have to figure something out quick, because right now, it's becoming a dangerous city to live in. A lot of gang activity, I guess. Speaking of the political stuff that's been happening, going to college as a pasty white boy is a surreal experience. I won't spend too much time on this because nobody likes to talk politics, but there are lots of clubs and organizations at every college, not just the one that I went to, that specifically exclude my identity. No joke. Like, there'll be a math club, but only for women, or an environmentalist club, but only for black students. I totally get the point of having clubs for specific groups, because those groups oftentimes need support for just that group, but I think doing it this way just creates more division in a place that's designed to be inclusive. I remember talking to this one guy at orientation. He was black. He specifically told me that, as a freshman, he had been endlessly contacted by the university about doing commercials. Now, there weren't a lot of black students at this institution. It was very historically white. So they found the one black guy and harassed him about doing PR. Ever since I left college, I've settled into the camp that diversity is important, but the way it's executed in most places just creates more division. But that's a topic for another time. Cincinnati is also very special for one specific reason: the bars. If you're going to Cincinnati this fall, you should know that if you want to have a social life, you basically have to live at the bar, because there's just not much else to do there. I think they even have half-price beer on freshman orientation day, which is just wild, considering that most freshmen are not 21. I only went to one of these bars one time. It was loud and expensive. I don't mind going to a smaller local bar, but the city ones are just not for me. So, that was my college experience. I threw a lot at you, and you've probably got a lot to think about. Overall, if I could do it again, I probably would have skipped college. What I would have done is gone to community college for the first 2 years, then finished my upperclassmen years at a university. Maybe I would have gone for something more fun, like a culinary degree or something. Digital media wasn't a terrible major by any means, but I hate the industry, and everything I learned on my own. All in all, I ended up spending most of my time in front of the computer, in my room, because I couldn't afford to spend any money anywhere else. But whatever. The reason I would transfer to a traditional 4-year university just to finish my junior and senior years is because nobody takes you seriously until you're a junior anyway. You can't get internships, and they make you take all these BS classes like Spanish and philosophy and English. Motherfucker, I speak English. I get the reasoning behind, like, wanting you to be a well-rounded student, but they make you take so many GE classes that it's just ridiculous. 2 years of taking things like English, and I'm paying this much money to do it? They only make you do that because they want more money. No. Take those classes for next to nothing at a community college, then transfer those credits to a university. Or even better, skip that whole process entirely and go into a trade. Those are coming back because, spoilers, there are just no white-collar jobs. There's nothing good, just being honest here. If you're watching this video and you've already committed to going to a college, don't sweat it. Just make the most of your first year. Then consider whether or not you think you'd be able to find a job in whatever major you're in. If the answer is no, you might be better off going into a trade and becoming an electrician. One of the greatest shortcomings of our parents' generation is convincing us that if we became a plumber or an electrician, we were somehow a failure. Those are stable jobs with great incomes. Do that and maybe have a hobby on the side. Maybe get a dog too. You absolutely can build the perfect life without going to college. But that's just me. I didn't even go into too much detail on just how expensive it is, but it is expensive. Let me know in the comments. Do you plan on going to college? What degree are you going for? Maybe you're already in college, or you're thinking of dropping out. Well, Candles is proud of you either way. College is really, really hard to get through today. So the fact that you're even trying is commendable. Even if you drop out, there's opportunities out there. Arguably, even more opportunities. Just something to think about. And if you're not in college, meaning you actually might have money to spend, we have a Patreon. That was the worst transition in history. But we do have a Patreon. Members that sign up for free get the occasional video update and candle sketch. We only have one paid tier. It's $5 a month. $5 members get weekly live streams that stay exclusive for 6 months, their name in the credits of every video on both of my channels, and a special Discord role, with access to the Patreon channels on that Discord server. No pressure though, only if you can afford it. I appreciate you either way. So, thank you for watching. I love you all. Good night.